Very much for supporting my nomination. So welcome again to this meeting. It is being webcast and hence the little cameras. So just a reminder, if you want to speak on any of the items, if you could put your hand up and turn your microphone on and turn it off when you finish, that would be great. I think we'll start off with apologies for absence. I think we've got a bit of a list. I think, Gary, you're going to just confirm who we've got missing today.
Yes, so thank you, Chair. We've had apologies from Mayor Burnham and Councillor O'Brien, with them being represented by Deputy Mayor Dunnett. We've had apologies from Mayor Campbell, Councillor Tucker, Mayor McGuinness, who's being represented by Councillor Gannon, Mayor Coppard, Councillor Hunt, Mayor Dame Andrew Jenkins, Councillor Mason, Stephen Parnaby, Mick Harris, and that's it.
Okay, so a bit of a list there. So first of all, I'd like to welcome Deputy Mayor Paul Dennett. I think is this your first time to TF? Yeah. Oh, well, I hope it's a very nice time for you, and we see you in the future when Mayor Burnham can't attend. I'm delighted to say that we have got two newly formed combined authorities in the form of Cheshire and Warrington and Cumbria, and they have nominated members for the board. For Cheshire and Warrington Combined Authority, we'll have Councillor Mundry, who is a long-standing member anyhow of Transport for the North, and Councillor Gorman from Cheshire East is the substitute. And then for Cumbria, we have Councillor Mark Fryer and Councillor Jonathan Brooks as a substitute. So welcome to all our new members to the Transport for the North Board. Okay, so if we move on with the rest of the agenda, item 3 is declarations of interest. Anybody got anything they want to declare? No? Okay, that's fine. Item 4 is minutes of the previous meeting. So there's two lots. There's a consultation call, which was held on the 8th of December, and the last in-person meeting, which was on the 15th of September in Darlington. And I think, Katie, you've got a couple of updates on that for us. Thank you.
So apologies from Martin Tugwell, our Chief Exec. Unfortunately, he's been unwell over the weekend, so you've got me substituting today for his item. So if you can just bear with me. So he just asked me to cover off a couple of items under the Chief Exec's update. Firstly, I think there's some points in there around the reset, which we will come on to as part of the business planning item later on in the agenda. But secondly, I was just going to invite our Strategy Director, Rachel Ford, just to give you a brief update on our work around the Green Book Review and our Northern Appraisal Playbook. Rachel?
Thank you. Following on from the board, the previous board meeting, we did submit a letter on the Northern Appraisal Playbook to the second Permanent Secretary at Treasury. We received a very positive response to that, and we've continued constructive discussions with officials at Treasury over the last couple of months. The revised Green Book was published in February, and I'm pleased to say that it did incorporate a number of areas of our feedback that we shared with Treasury, particularly around our evidence and research. And that was in particular in relation to references to transport analysis guidance on the value of travel times, on dependent development for unlocking housing, and also on the displacement of jobs. We are continuing ongoing discussions with Treasury, with NISTA, and also with DFT, including offering support on the development of place-based business case pilots, and also how we help roll out best practice from that work across the rest of the North. The conversations have been incredibly positive, and the feedback has been very good from Treasury around the work that we've done there. So all the support from your officers has been much appreciated on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Rotherham, did you want to come in? Thanks.
Yeah, Chair, I want to pick up on the minutes from page 10 to the bottom of page 11 to 6.28, which talks about Northern and Trans-Pennine Express. And when we had the update from them, it was concentrating on the operational functions of the business, and one of those has to be around the outsourcing of staff. Just as we've come in, there were people from the RMT, and they're very concerned that what this actually means in practice is that you can have two people doing the same job basically. One of them will be insourced and one of them will be outsourced, and the outsourced person will almost invariably be much worse off than the one who's within the main organisation. That creates a problem with workforces. What it says in the minutes in the meetings that we've had with both of the operators is that they're trying to build this homogenous business as it becomes then part of the greater nationalised, what's it called, the new thing? GBR, Great British Rail. So as it forms part of that, if we've got all the different and disparate parts of the business, they will have to be aligned. I think it should be incumbent on the train operators now to do that, so that it's a seamless transition into GBR, and it makes it easier for everybody. And just to sort of to put some context into this, Peter Hendy, who we all know is the rail minister and doing a sterling job, but Peter Hendy said the railway is absolutely stuffed full of big and small contracts, all with different terms, all producing real confusion about how we serve customers and passengers better. Isn't that what we're here to do, to try and make sense and coherence of all of that sort of myriad of fragmented organisations? This is one way in which we could influence both Northern and TPE to be doing something which I think will get wide support across the country.
Thank you, Mayor Rotherham. If you're happy, I'll very much take that away to discuss and pick up with Rail North Committee about what support that we can put behind that. I think that the whole ethos, as you said, around Great British Railways is to reduce fragmentation for the customer, but we've got to make sure that we've got a workforce that can do that as well. So if you'll let me take that one away, given the representations made today. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Paul?
Yeah, no, I'd just like to associate myself with Mayor Rotherham's comments there. I mean, there's a long tail here, isn't there? You know, compulsory competitive tendering was introduced into the public sector, I think, in 1992. I think it was Norman Lamont at the time. And since then, we've seen the acceleration of that under new public management. And, you know, in all honesty, that's led to a two-tier workforce in terms of the delivery of public services, or a multi-tiered workforce, actually. I think two-tiered is probably quite kind in terms of what happens. Then obviously the choopying of members of staff over to new organisations and all of the complexity that's brought with that. For me, you know, one of the things we never do is look at the transaction costs associated with all of this activity from a contract point of view, a legal point of view, a performance management point of view, a commissioning and contracting point of view. There are significant costs to the public sector in terms of operating in this way. And I guess for me, I come at this from a local government perspective. You know, we spend a lot of our time, effort and energy trying to tackle poverty and inequality in a context of a cost of living crisis. And one of the ways we can do that is by making sure people have decent pay, decent terms and conditions of employment, and decent pensions. And I think Mayor Rotherham's comments are absolutely right. Anything we can do to streamline some of this activity makes sense for the state, it makes sense for value for money, and actually it's better for the people who deliver these services and these jobs within our economy. So I fully support Mayor Rotherham's comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and we'll note that on the minutes. Okay, any other comments on this item? Okay, Katie, anything else from you on this?
That's it, thank you.
Okay, so we're now moving on to item 5, which is governance and constitutional matters, and this is where we'll cover the co-chair issue. So, Joanne, can I ask you to introduce this? Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. So, Chair, members, I'm going to take the report as read but provide a following summary. The report asks the board to approve the annual membership updates and meeting calendar, noting Appendix 1 on appointments to TfM boards and committees was drafted before the two recent combined authorities were created. Following their creation, Cheshire and Warrington Combined Authority has appointed Councillor Mundry with Councillor Gorman as substitute and Cumbria Combined Authority has appointed Councillor Fryer with Councillor Brooke as substitute. We are also proposing constitutional updates following the establishment of the 2 new combined authorities and due to the reset of TFNs. General Purposes Committee has recommended these for approval to the board. These include a new quorum of 6 authorities for decisions which require 50% of the weighted vote, strengthening our Audit and Governance Committee, dissolving the General Purposes Committee, and increasing the direct award threshold from £1,000 to £5,000 for the purchase of services and goods. We're also seeking approval for the continuing the interim Section 151 arrangements. In terms of simplified ways of working for 26-27, we are proposing a simpler meeting schedule, for example, with board, where we'll have 3 in-person meetings and a September consultation call. At the board briefing on the 26th of January, we sought a steer from members as to co-chairing arrangements for the TFN board to represent the geographical diversity of our constituent authorities. The proposed constitutional amendments include these co-chairing arrangements. Chair, that concludes the report. I'll hand back to you now to consider recommendations 2.A to J before we look at recommendations K to I.
Thank you. So quite a complicated constitutionally governance report. So I don't know, so if we bear in mind what Joanna said, if we can concentrate on A to J first, and then we can look at K and I after that. So we'll do the co-chairing thing at the end, but we need to do the others first. So anybody got any comments? And I think that was to do with co-chairing. Yeah, we're all very keen with the co-chairing. Today, aren't we? I mean, David is so excited about this. We've got A to J, I, sorry, and then J, K and L. So any observations on A to I, or can we just vote those through? A to J, sorry. A to J. Can we just vote those through? And any comments on that? Are we okay? Yep. Okay, can I have somebody, I'm proposing that, can someone second them? Councillor Gannon, you had your hand up very quickly there before. So all those in favour of A to J? That's fine. Right, so we'll move on to K and L now, which are the co-chairing ones. And I think we need proposals, is that right? One?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Chair. So members, we are now inviting nominations for co-chairs for 26-27. These interim chairing arrangements will continue until the next AGM, which we expect to be held in June, when chairing arrangements are considered for the 26-27 municipal year. Members, may I ask for nominations for these co-chairing arrangements?
Thank you, Chair. If I could nominate Mayor David Skaith. Thank you.
Seconder?
Councillor Gannon.
Councillor Gannon, thank you.
Chair, just so we do get balanced geographically, I think the co-chair thing is really, really good. But it's great that David is allowed his name or accepted the co-chairing nomination. I think the same would be appropriate for yourself to continue as the co-chair in the whatever's remaining of this short municipal year until we get to the stage where we can have the AGM. But I think that would be something that would be widely supported, to have co-chairs.
Thank you, Mayor Rotherham. Can I have a seconder for Councillor Gittins? Thank you, Councillor Mundry.
We need to vote. Do you need to do that?
Yes. Yeah. All in favour of these nominations? Thank you, that's unanimous.
Oh, hopefully that's the most complicated bit, or have you got something else? Joanne, go on.
Thank you. As not all 11 constituent authorities are in attendance, I recommend that whilst the meeting can consider and agree interim arrangements until the next AGM, I propose that a consultation exercise be undertaken with all 11 constituent authorities following this meeting to appoint Councillor Gittins as a fully co-opted member for 26-27, so she can undertake the co-chairing arrangements at the next AGM. So as monitoring officer, I will consult on behalf of the CEO under his delegated powers. Once the consultation exercise ends, a report will be submitted to the next board meeting for information purposes. Thank you.
Thank you. David, do you want to say a few words on your new role as co-chair?
And it's much appreciated. Thank you, co-chair, for allowing me to be co-chair. And on this whole journey together, every time I do talk about transport, I do end up talking in puns all the time. So you are going to have to handle that. But just touching back to Steve's point, I think this is an opportunity to really showcase the whole of the north and that east and west, either side of the Pennines, and the new age of transport for the north, also representing away from the core cities as well as the towns of the rural communities as well, which we've all been pushing for, and the new lay of the land with more devolved areas coming on, having that greater representation of those non-core city regions, but those towns, those areas as well, I think a good opportunity. And as we go through this transition phase into the future, how working better with the other pan-northern organisations such as the Great North and others as well, and how we can have that stronger alignment to everything that's going on in the north, not just around transport. So I look forward to being a part of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I look forward to working with you as well. Great things will happen. Can we note that, please? That was all agreed by everybody. Okay, so I think, is that report now over, Joanne? Have we done all of governance and constitutional matters? Great. Okay, so the next item is annual statement of accounts, including annual governance statement. We were going to have Martin doing this, but I think, Katie, you're going to step in here.
Thank you, Chair. So, members, today we are seeking the board's agreement to the 24-25 accounts, which have been considered by the Audit and Governance Committee. Unfortunately, our Chair, Graham Bell, wasn't able to join us today, but he lent his support. And I should add that it was a clean, unqualified audit. So we're seeking your agreement to those accounts. They also include the annual governance statement, which again has been considered by the Audit Committee. The committee met on the 6th of March and was content also to recommend that to the board. And included within the pack too is the annual assurance report for the committee for your noting. Very happy to take any comments or questions. We have our Section 151 and our Finance Director here for anything technical. But if there's any other feedback, otherwise we'll be looking for your support for the recommendations within the paper, please. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. And a big thank you to Graham and the rest of the team for the work that they've done in looking at this. He did send quite a lengthy sort of statement. Oh, is it the business plan? Okay, sorry, I've got that one wrong. I'm failing at everything. Yeah, so big thank you to Graham. He was hoping to be here today. Audit and governance keep us on the on a safe track, I think. So thank you to all of the members that are on that. And if you can feed that back to your constituent authorities, that would be fabulous. Thank you. So any questions around this? No? Okay, so recommendations are 2.1 A and B to approve the annual statements of accounts, including the annual governance statement, and note the Audit and Governance Committee annual assurance report. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Anyone like to second it? Thank you, Steve. All those in favour? That's clearly carried. Thank you very much. Next item is Rail North Committee update. Katie, do you want to introduce this? And then if we've got any Rail North Committee members here today, it'd be good to get some feedback from you as well. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Obviously, Mayor Burnham couldn't be with us here today as Chair of RNC, so just to I'll take the paper as read, but I wanted to just draw your attention to the 2 recommendations and 1 update. If I take the update first, I've been really lucky to be the lead director for Rail North Committee for the last 12 months, and I wanted to just sort of say thank you, but actually just recognise increasingly how we've seen the Rail North Committee focused on the more strategic pan-northern matters that impact our rail network and impact our operations. For example, trying to tackle Sunday services for us. And overall operator performance. And I think more recently, certainly with Rob's help as well, trying to support Network Rail colleagues in the delivery of some fairly significant investment over the next 10 years to make sure we realise the benefits out of the Trans-Pennine route upgrade. And I would just say that that's really been in recognition of our combined authority colleagues having a much greater role directly with the industry. And therefore TFN, the Rail North Committee, being able to focus more on the strategic kind of intercity connectivity aspects of our network. And it's to that end that I wanted to just share that with the support of Mayor Coppard and Simca colleagues, we were really pleased to convene the first Sheffield Rail Task Force. This was involving industry, our colleagues at the Department for Transport and local authorities to define a plan about that critical node on our network that I think has not had the attention that this board felt it should have. So we convened the first meeting last month. We'll be coming together again later this month, and I wanted to just make the board aware of that, and we will report progress to you when we meet again. On the recommendations, if I can draw members' attentions to the Rail North Committee's consideration of the Rail North grant contributions for the year ahead. This is a standard matter that they consider on an annual basis, but I did just want to point out that they were happy to recommend it to you, but also note that this is interim because the world is changing with rail reform, and we will be looking at these contributions and the arrangements around Rail North over the course of the next 12 months. And that will be picked up under the business planning item later. And on the second recommendation is advice around that we were looking to put to the Secretary of State around freight benefits. And if I could just come to my colleague Rachel just to say a few words by way of introduction on that, please.
Thank you, Katie. As we all know, getting more freight onto rail has considerable economic benefits in terms of helping to reduce congestion, but also in terms of reducing carbon emissions as well. And there's been an absolutely fantastic job done in terms of the Trans-Pennine route upgrade so far, but actually we think that there's some short-term interventions that could be done to maximise the benefits for rail freight on that route. So the draft advice highlights that there's a considerable opportunity to maximise those freight benefits from the current programme. Working with your officers and with industry, and in particular the Rail Freight Group, we've identified a number of interventions that will help to meet the full freight outputs from TRU. So this includes things like high gauge clearance, and that's on both the west and east coast sides of TRU. It's additional rail freight terminal capacity in the northwest. It's resolving some of the operational issues across the TRU corridor. So it is very much about unblocking some of those challenges that exist across that TRU corridor and making sure that we can increase and maximise the number of freight paths in use across the corridor. So we have drafted the advice. RNC has recommended it to the board, and very happy to take any comments on it today.
So thank you, Chair. We're looking for support for to note the feedback from the committee and to look for support for the recommendations at A and B, approving the statutory advice on freight and the Rail North contributions.
Thank you very much both, and thank you very much for all the work that you do on that, and big thanks to Rail North committee members. Does anyone want to make any comments? Yes, Paul?
Yeah, can I just say I'm hugely supportive of this work. I think freight movements is probably something we don't talk enough about. And actually, there is an interconnectedness between freight and passenger rail, and we certainly know that in Greater Manchester. And because of things like grandfather rights that are often associated with freight operators, it has a huge impact on our railway network. And it's not just the railway network within the north, it's decisions made in London and also in the West Midlands that potentially impact places like the north and certainly Greater Manchester. And any solution to improve freight movement, I think is to be seriously welcomed. Obviously, this has carbon emission benefits, but it also has timetabling benefits in terms of the impact it'll have on passenger rail. And in addition to that, it also helps us with reindustrialising the country and the north. I know when we look at exports in Greater Manchester, a lot of ours are in the service sector, relying heavily on the airport as the mode of transport. So anything we can do to further bolster freight movements will improve the economy of the north. And I'm thinking of our relationship specifically with the Port of Liverpool. So I'm hugely supportive of the work here, and hopefully you will get the required investment to do the necessary upgrades. Thank you.
Thank you. Tracy?
Yeah, thanks so much for this, and I really agree. It's a great piece of work. Freight is so important, and in the scale of TransPennine, what is it, 11 billion, 30 to 60 million does feel like a doable amount to support the freight investment. But also, I'd just like to alert the committee to the really interesting work that's happening in Huddersfield University at the Centre of Innovation in Rail, where they are marginally speeding up freight movements so that they can actually get more on the network. So it's just really good innovation, and we can't just be sat on our hands, looking backwards about, what we actually needed 10 years ago. It's what do we need today and for the future. But it's a good piece of work, and I'd encourage anybody that's really interested in rail and freight particularly to check that out. And I've been privileged to take ministers there as well. It's a really exciting centre of excellence.
Thank you. Do you think they'd like to come and speak to us at a future board meeting and talk about that?
They would love it.
I've got a feeling, actually, Chair, I've got a feeling there's an outstanding offer to host the board, actually, there. So we might even be able to arrange to have a board meeting there, which would be great.
That would be fabulous. I know, I think freight is something we've all felt very passionate about, and sometimes it's little tiny tweaks that can make such a difference to free up capacity. So, and I also think it's great that this is reminding us that we do have that statutory power to offer advice to the Secretary of State. So, I'm very supportive of this letter. And
just very quickly, may I, Chair, also to mention that if you are buying rolling stock, they also have a research centre for their rolling stock interiors, where volunteers have an experience of a number of hours on a train and then feed back their experience in the interior of the rolling stock. So it would be a really good visit as well as hosting the meeting.
sounds like a plan there. Good. Steve, did you want to come in?
Yeah, just I'm encouraged that the government seem to be putting freight onto rail much more in line with what our beliefs have been from almost from day one, when we were saying that we needed to do more to encourage freight onto rail. It frees up hundreds of millions of HGV miles of our motorways, and anyone who's travelled, for instance, between Liverpool and Leeds by car recently will know exactly what I'm saying, and that would provide that capacity for people to get from A to B much more quickly. The good news was that in the stuff that Rachel Reeves, Chancellor of the Exchequer, spoke about as well with Northern Powerhouse Rail, again in our bilateral discussions and deliberations, freight was very much part of what those conversations were. So it does seem that sometimes messaging takes a long time to percolate to the right level. It appears that our lobbying and the work that we've been doing is actually improving the situation in, with regard to getting freight onto rail, and we've got the Liverpool-Manchester Rail Board, and as part of that we're very much targeting the Port of Liverpool, as Councillor Dennett said.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Mundry, did you want to speak?
Just very briefly, just looking at the new combined authority of Cheshire and Warrington, is thinking about Chester City itself, and obviously their links to the port in going also to Ireland. So I think try not to forget us when we're moving forwards, that we are here as well and want to take part and take freight off, take the traffic off our roads as well. So the Warrington to Chester link is very important to us, and also Crewe Station to try and open up the Midlands. So if that can be brought into it, it'd be really great if that could happen as well.
Thank you. Any other comments on this one? No? Okay. So we've got 3 recommendations at 2. To note the feedback from Rail North Committee and the actions committee is taking. Approve the statutory advice on rail freight priorities that's set out in Appendix 1 and approve the proposal for Rail North financial contributions 26-27. Can I have a seconder for those, please, if I'm proposing? Councillor Mundry, thank you. All those in favour? That's clearly carried. Thank you very much. Next item is Corporate Risk Register update. Katie.
Thank you, Chair. Again, the risk register was considered by the Audit and Governance Committee when it met on the 6th of March, and the board is invited to note the updates and offer any feedback. Just to draw members' attention to the risk register has actually been subject to a very thorough and fundamental review following risks materialising in relation to the TFN budget and our external operating environment changing. And as doing that fundamental review, we've taken the opportunity to streamline wherever possible to make us hopefully manage our risk register a little bit more efficiently. But you will also note that we have proposed 2 new risks regarding our funding beyond 26-27 and a future operating model for a reset TFN. We're actively working with your officers to identify the mitigations and actions in relation to those 2 new risks, and I propose that they are fully considered at the next board meeting, if not before, via correspondence. So, Chair, at this stage, just only open to comments or feedback, really, ahead of hopefully noting the risk register.
Okay, so anybody got any comments on the risk register? Just while you're having a quick think. I know certainly at a council level we're doing a deep dive into the risk of cyber and the impact that it might have, and I think it'd be quite reassuring to know that TFN has got robust systems in place to resist any cyber attacks, but then I suppose there's the wider, I don't know if it's something Rail North might want to think about in terms of Northern and TransPennine, because it is, we've seen the sort of devastating impact that it's had on businesses recently. So that's just a thought from me. So anybody got, oh, Joanne?
I'd just like to inform the board that cyber is regularly discussed as a risk at the Audit and Governance Committee, and on our audit plan for next year we've got a cyber audit as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any comments on the risk register? No? So we've got a couple of recommendations on that. Just to note the risk register, are we all happy with that? Yeah, all those in favour? Thank you. Do I need a seconder? A seconder, please, for the report. Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. I think everyone's very keen here to second things, which is nice to see. Okay, all those in favour? Clearly carried. Thank you very much. Okay, so next item is date and time of the next meeting, which will be 29th of June. We have got it due to be in Greater Manchester Combined Authority in Manchester. So we're now going to ask for the press and the public to leave the meeting, because we're going to go into a private session, which I'll have to propose in a minute. But are there any members of the press or the public lurking in the background anywhere? No, and I think the webcast